Welcome to Fintech Daydreaming, the podcast that dives into the world of banking technologies and the ever-changing landscape of fintech companies. We bring you real-life examples from global and local thought leaders, as well as experts working within the financial industry, and seek out the best stories from the front lines of financial services innovation, where dreams of industry pioneers meet reality. Hosted by Pål and Ville. This is Fintech Daydreaming.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Fintech Daydreaming. We are continuing our journey through season 11, Ville and myself. And as always, we try to find interesting guests, and sometimes we get some real good guests to join us here on this podcast to have some good discussions. And today is no different. I am Pål. I'm going to be your host for this episode. But as always, I couldn't do this without my fantastic friend and I really want to say partner in crime, but we've agreed we're not allowed to say that anymore, so I won't say that. My partner in fintech, Ville. How are you, Ville, my friend?
I'm doing good. Since we're kind of used to doing weather things here at the beginning, I have to say that the January and February here in Finland has really not delivered on the winter front. It's been a very almost like a spring atmosphere here. So I'm kind of enjoying it. So again, I don't mind a little bit of an extra sun, a little bit less snow, but I know a lot of people here are quite upset about the weather.
Well, you know absolutely how I feel about the Finnish winter weather, Ville. So I'm going to say that I'm actually quite enjoying it. And added to that, as you know, I have, shall I say fortunately, I'm not quite sure how I'm going to put this, but signed up for running the Stockholm Marathon this year. And so this weather is actually being very friendly and helping in the training. I tried doing some training on a treadmill, and it is the most horrendously boring thing in the world. So my girlfriend and I, we are out every other day in what is at the moment more favorable weather for jogging and running around. We've actually already got up to 15k, so I'm feeling positive about my marathon escapades. Let's see how they turn out at the end. Might even try and do some sort of sponsor charity thing for this, but it's turning out to be a bit complicated to do that here in Finland. In the UK, it was a lot easier. But we digress. Absolutely, we digress. We should come back onto topic and talk about things more interesting. And around that, our fantastic guest. We have got with us today Chris Moore. Very British in name, very British in accent, but actually living here in Finland and has been here in Finland for, I believe, close to 10 years or so. And is currently working at ReceiptHero here in Finland, a fintech that are doing some very interesting things that we're going to find out more about. But before we get there, Chris, it's fantastic to have you on the show. Why don't you tell us a little bit and our listeners about you, how you ended up here in Finland, and a little bit about your background.
Sure. So yeah, thanks guys for having me on. Well, how did I end up in Finland? I am essentially a love refugee. So the wife is Finnish, and quite naturally I was captured and brought here many years ago. But a joke. It's a great country for everything, bringing up kids, education, work, and everything else. So great to be in the Nordics. So I've been in Finland around 10 years now. About 9 of those years have been kind of in fintech. Prior to ReceiptHero, I actually worked at OP Financial Group. So I was actually one of the guys in the innovation hub before the boom and bust of innovation labs sort of fell out of favor, let's say. So actually, part of being in the lab, I was actually introduced to ReceiptHero as a sort of a innovative fintech to actually potentially work with the group. So that was sort of the intro to the business. In terms of what I do for ReceiptHero, I'm kind of involved in our international business, quite a broad remit, but predominantly working with our payment partners. So that's both the schemes, working with acquirers, gateways and networks, essentially trying to expand the network of merchants on the platform and to get as many digital receipts flowing through as possible. I would say we're a fintech, but I think probably over the last 18 months, we have evolved more into a retail tech as well. So we do more than just linking payment transactions to receipt data from the cash register, we do a lot more services towards merchants now. So still a fintech, but we are evolving, let's say, as a growing company.
Maybe it would help a little bit for those who aren't familiar with ReceiptHero, what you do. Everybody knows what receipts are, but maybe shed some light on where does the company come from? What is this company trying to solve?
Yeah. So yeah, it is an age-old problem. So we pay with Apple Pay, we pay with wearable technology, we pay with our phones, but 9 times out of 10, a piece of paper slips out of the printer at the cash register, and that's our proof of purchase. So essentially, we've been trying to work on a model where a customer can still get that digitally and in real time, and in applications or services that they use day to day. So it could be banking apps, it could be expense solutions, could even be in a merchant's loyalty app. So the model is essentially going to merchants and getting them on the platform and trying to convince them that most of your customers actually would prefer a digital receipt compared to the piece of paper that slips out, and we can help make that happen. So you can see us as a technology partner that ties all the bits and pieces between the cash register, the payment terminal, the banking apps, or whatever it might be, all together, and to kind of harmonize that and get that flowing in real time, essentially.
But I mean, let's get down to nuts and bolts here. Everything to us here when it comes to banking and payments in the Nordics, particularly in Finland, it is digital already. The only thing that's left, as you said, is the paper that gets spewed out by the point of sale system at the end of the day. Why is this part, this little small part, why has it been so difficult to digitize?
I think there's quite a few different compounding factors there. So a big one is just the fragmentation, right? You have retailers using a plethora of different cash register systems, some that have not been updated for 20 plus years, some that have been sold, acquired, bundled into different services and things like that. You've also got the likes of Visa and MasterCard having set up the payment rails prior to integrated cash register systems being on the market. So therefore, it was a bit of an afterthought that actually maybe this data could have been part of that, but sadly that was just the wrong timing, let's say. There's also some market regulation that is hindering the fully digital rollout of receipts. So there are some markets in Europe that literally require you to print a paper receipt, and that is the de facto kind of proof of purchase. So we're fighting all that. I mean, thankfully, Finland is a great market where you can actually turn off a paper printer and deliver a digital version of the receipt without there being any regulatory issues. But yeah, it's a compounding factor of lots of integrations to do, lots of merchants to deliver to. On the payment stack, you've got very old payment devices that are end of life and need to be kind of rolled out with new Android terminals. But yeah, lots of things in that pot that just makes it cumbersome to kind of really roll out at scale, which is both an opportunity but also a little bit of a frustration for us.
But as a consumer end user, where will my receipts end up in this case? Do they end up in my banking app? Do they end up in a digital wallet somewhere? Or where will I have all of these receipts?
Yeah, so what we would have loved to have happened at the beginning of our journey was that all banks would have clubbed together and said, okay, let's all integrate at the same time to allow the distribution channels of receipts to land in the banking applications. As we all know, banks don't move that quick or are not as aligned with each other as they could be. But we essentially kind of started working with a few different banks. So we work with 2 big corporate group banks in the Nordics. So SEB, we're integrated with Eurocard, and we're also integrated with Nordea's First Card product as well. So, of course, we would love all the banks to be harmonized and be the end destination for receipts, but seldom that's not the case. So that's one channel. We have, over the last maybe 18 months, delivered a solution that's a little bit more lightweight. So you could hypothetically scan a QR code on the payment terminal or a front-facing cash register screen and get the receipt in the browser. So it's a link of the receipt that you can then go and save as a PDF or create an account through Google or iCloud, for example, and archive them there. Quite recently, we've just developed a solution with Verifone where you tap the payment terminal using the NFC functionality on the terminal, and same applies, the receipt will open up in the browser. But yeah, it is a little bit fragmented in that regard. It's different solutions for different merchants. We typically sit quite closely to the merchants because they are the dictator of what they would like to do with the data, in good ways and sometimes bad ways. But the aim is that we can sort of get the receipts as widely distributed to customers as possible.
Even at the risk of going straight to the deep end here with this conversation, the receipt data, I mean, this obviously is a controversial point to a certain extent, because I believe that the merchants, especially the large supermarkets, they feel that it's a very valuable asset for them in terms of what exactly did anyone buy, and being able to link that into to a specific customer, and then building profiles on these customers. They feel that it's their data. Then on the other hand, me as a consumer, I feel that it's my data. I should actually be able to give that or pool that or store that in any way I see fit for myself. And I might be, again, this is just my kind of gut feeling, but I think the ownership of this data is also hindering the standardization of this space, and indeed is one of the major reasons perhaps why we don't have digital receipts as a standard in the same way as we have payments. So what is your experience in terms of this data ownership question and the kind of the political, if you will, tug and pull between this, who owns this data? So how is that impacting this rollout from your perspective?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the bigger the retailer you are, the more data you have more stores, more checkout lanes. The volumes are just far greater than your coffee chain down the road. So yeah, I totally agree. That then powers internal loyalty platforms. I mean, if you look across Europe, all the large grocery chains have either their own club card points or loyalty scheme, but also their own application where they're trying to drive customers towards. From our position, if we don't have the merchants on the platform, there's no receipts to deliver. So we do side quite closely to the merchants because they are judge, jury, and executioner when it comes to whether we work with them or not. So we definitely want to make sure that they feel comfortable with kind of the actions that we're doing. We've always advocated for an open platform. So the idea is, not every customer is using your loyalty app, although you'd love them to, but maybe it's a corporate transaction. So that receipt in the loyalty app is no good, because at some point you as a customer need to do 2 or 3 different actions to actually extract the receipt from that app and send it somewhere else. So our position has always been, trust us, allow us to be your partner to deliver this data. There's definitely a strong use case for getting it into their own apps, but please understand there's a myriad of other use cases where customers want to see their receipts elsewhere. So I think it's more educating the market position. We hold good talks with large grocery chains all the time. They're definitely not the enemy in the room. They definitely would like to see kind of a more fluid model where anyone could benefit from it. But I think as a phase one, just to get these big retailers to issue digital receipts, it's taken a while. I mean, if we look at the 2 big chains here in Finland, they both went straight to their own applications and no others. But I think we continuously have the dialogue with them to make sure that the benefit would be driven also outside of their own solution and ecosystem. But yeah, it's just a constant evolution of discussion.
Quick follow-up question there. So when you do integrate merchants into the ReceiptHero platform, do you then store and keep the data as well on your side, or do you just pass it through?
We do store it. So part of our kind of contractual stack with the merchant is just to outline the do's and don'ts of what we do with the data. Most merchants are happy for us to store that data. If there was a rare instance that a big retailer wouldn't want us to store it, then of course we would come to the table and look at alternatives. But so far it hasn't been an issue. We follow GDPR, and we are PCI DSS compliant as well. So when it comes to all the typical compliance procedures, when it comes to securing data, it's not been an issue really. So yeah.
So, and do you monetize that data in any way?
No. So the idea is that part of the contract is that we'll explicitly outline how the receipts are structured, which partner applications are receiving the receipts. So it could be that it's a expense application, a bank app. We could pass the receipts into the merchant's loyalty app. So that there's just different flows for different receipts. The idea is that we have a commercial model with the retailer to put up our service essentially. So that's typically the model that we have. But yeah, if there are new partner apps that come to the platform, we have an obligation to go back to the merchant and say, this is a new app. They would love to receive your receipt data. Do we get a yes or a no from you? So it's very clean cut in terms of our role and kind of the responsibilities of the platform.
This is very much a complicated matchmaking exercise for you, right? Because you need to have the retailers on board, if we take, like you said, the large chains here in Finland, but also at the same time you need to have the merchants or the card providers and the network involved as well, because even though one of the large supermarkets here in Finland agree to use your platform, won't it be dependent upon what mechanism or card I use for paying as to whether I end up with that digital receipt or not?
Yeah, so from the card linking product that we have, so we have different buckets. We've got card linking, which is essentially our bread and butter core product, where we will enroll a payment card via corporate issuers or partner applications where there's a card form. That is where we have a specific card that we then map towards a transaction that's come from a merchant location that we've got on board. You're right, yeah. So, I mean, coming back to the initial point about if all banks were on the platform at the same time, that chicken and the egg scenario wouldn't be a problem. Where we have a fallback for that is the non-integrated customer flow, where they might scan something at the checkout or tap on the terminal or retrieve the receipt through we call it Fetch Later, which is our kind of receipt retrieval portal that we have. So we kind of have other mechanisms to get the receipt. I know they're not perfect, but we're just kind of working with the constraints that we have in sort of the market. It would be a totally different place where, if you had all the big Finnish or Nordic banks onboarded, you would at least have all the flows towards those banking applications. But as that's not the case, we are just working with kind of the cards we have that have been dealt with. So
I absolutely understand the value proposition here, and as an end consumer, I think this is a fantastic idea. I'd love to have all of the receipts in one place. It would be great if this could happen. But from a network perspective, who pays? Where are you making your money? Are you charging the merchants, or are you charging the retailers, or is there a fee that goes across everything, or will I as a consumer end up having to pay for getting my receipts digitally?
So from a consumer perspective, there's no fee, and that's how it should be really, because no one's going to start paying for a digital receipt compared to getting a piece of paper, sadly. We have commercial models with the merchant, and that's typically a monthly subscription model. It varies depending on the outlay of what we're doing. If it's card link receipting, we have typically pricing per card in the system. But if it's the full shebang, let's say where we're integrating into their payment applications, we are doing large scale cash register integrations with them. Yeah, it could be a quite significant amount. When we work with corporate issuers, we have a fee for the service. So when we integrate to corporate banks, we'll have a fee that we charge them on a monthly basis as well, and that's typically dependent on cards too. What I didn't say actually, to counter the non-banks from participating, we actually built our own application. So there is a ReceiptHero consumer app, primarily driven by if a consumer wants to have their receipts or some of the receipts that are on our merchant platform, they can get them from a non-banking experience. So you can go download the app, iOS or Android, you can add a payment card and then tap your card when you're in Neste or Arkioski or the other retailers that we have on the platform, and you get the receipt there. But yeah, it's still suboptimal to being in the OP Bank app or the Nordea consumer app, for example. But yeah, that's sort of our stopgap until we get the distribution.
Then I've got a follow-on question to that, particularly if we step back to the large retailers, or the two large retailers here in Finland. One of them, started off with a loyalty card, which now they're running their own retail bank around that. They already have, if you got their card, you've got their loyalty card, you've got access to your receipts. It must be a difficult value proposition to convince them to move away from their own enclosed, ring-fenced ecosystem to something else, when what they really want, like Ville said before, it's their data, they believe, it's their customers, that they want to ring-fence this, consume this, and have this all to themselves. So how do you break that model in a positive way?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, that definitely is a challenge. I think from our perspective, it definitely comes back to that if it's consumer driven and if they're looking for, having all their customers use the loyalty app, it's got great penetration, but it's not, full penetration. So not all customers are, using it. So I think we would still pitch in to say that, well, there are other channels, and the more we grow, the more we onboard fairly large merchants. I do hope the confidence with these grocery chains gets easier and better to make sure that we're not using the data nefariously. We are really this is the benefit of their cardholders, their consumers, and I think a good example of that would be these two grocery chains rolling out their corporate credit cards. So I think that's been in the news quite recently. So both now have their own corporate card. One of the big drivers for using those cards is going to be digital receipts in kind of a real-time manner. If you can only get your receipts from those groups' locations and none of the others, that would become a little bit more painful. So if we fast forward a couple of years when we've actually got the rest of the market already on the platform, and we work with other corporate expense players, you actually might get more of your receipts from non-grocery chain owned businesses, so whether it's the hotels or whatever. So there might be this shifting of the chasm where they then realize, actually, why can't we get those receipts in our corporate card applications? And then they might realize, because they've gone open ecosystem play, and we've kind of confined ourselves in our own model. But as I said, we are constantly engaging with them to try and change the mindset, let's say.
You mentioned in the beginning that in some countries, not specifically here in Finland, but in some countries, there's regulations surrounding receipts as a proof of purchase, if you will. Now, this gets me thinking, do you see, because the proof of purchase is in a way can be linked to things like product warranty or paybacks and things like this, have you seen any type of fraud happening in this space? And is the regulation that you referred to, is that to fight potential fraud and counterfeiting of receipts? And what is the role of digital versus paper receipts or analog receipts in this case? I guess where I'm going with this is that, are we going to see like digital signatures for proof of purchase in the future or something like this? But maybe I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself here.
Yeah, I think we definitely think that's the future. So yes, certain markets in Europe where fiscalization is kind of implemented. It's in some markets it's been implemented on a analog basis. So you'll get a QR code at the bottom of the paper receipt, or you'll get a fiscal ID that shows the tax authority that receipt is the genuine one. Some markets in Europe have, of course, gone to the cloud, and that can all be fiscalized digitally. So that makes it a lot easier for us to go in and implement a solution. When we work with a merchant in a market where we don't have issues about paper versus digital, we've always gone in with the model that our receipt can be the originally generated receipts. So we're in a good spot because we typically integrate towards the cash register, and that is the single source of truth where this data is from, and therefore it can be seen as the original. So when when you've got a situation where the merchant doesn't know what's the original copy, we can categorically say that ours was generated from the source and can be used as the original. Fraud can definitely be kind of a topic of thought here. I think we now are in markets where we are adding fiscalization to the digital receipts. I think that is the future. It definitely makes sense that you can be stopped and checked for a transaction that you've just taken and have that visible. We have cases in like the German-speaking region at the moment where we're implementing the solution with sort of fiscal partners where essentially allow us the connection towards the tax authorities and to fiscalize those receipts. But it's a big monster. It's not something that we want to actively do, but it's something that is a legal requirement in certain markets, and we just have to deliver it. So
I'm gonna go one step further in this line of questioning, because it's interesting that, for example, if I buy an expensive piece of electronics and I get a digital receipt for it, I presume that to a certain extent it is linked to my identity in that case, if it's a digital receipt. Now, in the second-hand market, then I might want to sell my expensive electronics in order for me to get the latest model. Typically in the paper world, sometimes, especially in the second-hand markets, if you have the receipt with the thing that you're selling, then it kind of increases trust and value of the product in the second-hand market. How does this work in the world of digital receipts?
Good question. So once the receipt has been generated and sort of exported as a PDF, there is no let's say specific customer identification on that receipt data. So it can be, I mean, you could take that PDF and actually print it, and it would have probably the same value that a paper receipt from origin would have. So I think it's not the most seamless way to hand over ownership, and I think I know where you're going in terms of maybe like the blockchain of leveraging and kind of the sort of nuances there. But I think that's something that we do, but I wouldn't say it's a big part of the business where we see a lot of secondhand transactions. A good chunk of our merchants are in consumables, so food and drink, where once you've consumed an item, you're not going to regurgitate it and sell it on the secondhand market. But yeah, I know where you're going in terms of like high value items and understanding the chain of ownership. I think going forward that will become more relevant, definitely.
Yeah. So just to comment on that quickly, first of all, blockchain is not something we discuss quite often on this podcast, and as people listening to us will know, we don't tend to go to that direction that often in terms of favoring it, at least. So I do believe in digital signatures, PKI, and peer-to-peer quite a lot, but blockchain as such might not be the answer to everything, as we might have thought a few years ago. But another point is that, as far as I understand receipts, it is a proof of purchase. It's not proof of ownership. So I'm not able to kind of say that this thing belongs to me because I have the receipt. So it's a bit of a different kind of a concept in that sense.
I was a little bit concerned, Ville, that we were going to start talking about NFTs of receipts and the second-hand market of receipts there. I was starting to panic for a minute, but thank you. You pulled us back into reality again. So thank you for that. Yes. But I actually want to go back to the international element of this, because Chris, you're focused on the international business for ReceiptHero here. Is this business something which is very localized in each region? I'm thinking if me as a Finn, or actually I'm not a Finn, but me with a Finnish bank card went to Germany and made a purchase, is there a connection here that says that in the future I will be able to get my digital receipt even from Germany into my Finnish bank app or whatever the case may be, or will it always end up being regionalized by country, by region, and so forth?
Well, we believe that would be the case. So our model would be that you can enroll a Finnish bank card, and if we have locations abroad, you'll be able to capture that receipt in real time. So we've always believed that if we're providing legally compliant receipts in either market, it shouldn't stop us from that cross-border sort of activity of the transaction, right? So there's been cases where we've had customers transact in some of our duty-free stores in Heathrow Airport, for example, and they've used their Euro card, and they've been kind of amazed that, wasn't expecting I would get a receipt automatically back to the application. So yeah, we definitely believe that. I mean, that's a longer term project, because that just means opening up a lot more markets, trying to get to the larger chains in each market, and trying to drive that as much as possible. But yeah, that's our premise. I mean, we work with Visa and MasterCard on a European level. So if we don't have the PSP connection or the acquirer connection per market, we typically will revert to enrolling the card and sending the card data to either scheme for tokenization, and then using that ID to then map the receipt from the POS system. So, and that's a standard integration we have, and something that we work across different markets. So it definitely will help us to scale going forward.
From your perspective, looking at the international market, what has been the largest barriers to entry for you as you look to expand outside of the Finnish borders?
I think, a little bit on the fiscalization. So unlike Finland, we could just do an integration to the cash register and get the receipts flowing, somewhat straightforward. In markets in the Baltics, in Central Europe, that's not enough. We have to essentially take the receipt that we grab, we have to send it into a fiscalization platform, get it back, and then deliver it on. So it's then fully compliant with the local regulations. It's an extra step. It's it's an extra integration that we've had to do. Has it slowed us down? Not really, but it's something that we of course had to do per market. And as we said, there's nuances per market where it might be a different flavor. So Bulgaria, for example, if we want to do digital receipts with merchants there still needs to be a physical printer that prints, and you can't suppress the print. It needs to just keep on printing. So you don't save on paper, you don't save on costs for that. It's then, you're providing a digital receipt with a printer that still prints. So kind of defeats the object a little bit, but that's a regulatory issue that we just have to, wait for and assume that will go digital at some point. I think one of the opportunities in international markets is there are just bigger markets, right? So the economies of scale, you've got bigger retailers that actually will see significant cost savings from deploying a service like ours. So whether it's a big fast food chain or it's a big retailer, just with more stores, more checkout lanes compared to some of the stores in Finland, that's a big opportunity for us to essentially make more money, but also to deliver cost savings to different merchants. And I think another one as well is that we've actually seen European-led initiatives. So in EV charging, for example, there was a mandate last year about contactless payments. So a lot of these charge point operators had to retrofit a payment terminal, and the afterthought was, I think we might need to also retrofit a printer or provide a receipt. And thankfully, no one retrofitted a printer, but it created a new segment for us, because not many people are doing EV specific digital receipting. So we kind of found a bit of a niche there, and we're excited with a few different projects across Europe that will go live this year in terms of providing a nice solution for predominantly corporate customers that are transacting for work, for filling up the car with electric, but also in terms of the fleet model. So a lot of fleet managers that also need to get this receipt data in real time to make sure that they can expense those transactions.
Talking of electrical vehicles and not needing printers, we're heading into the area of sustainability, ESG here now. Have you seen any substantial numbers or proof points on how your solution is helping to improve sustainability?
Yes. So I think it was estimated that there's 1.7 billion receipts generated in Finland annually, which equates to around 30,000 trees. if you kind of take a very layman's term calculation of it. But I mean, it just comes back to the point that when we try and deploy the full solution, so it's not just the card linking, but also the QR codes and things like that. We are targeting a model with a merchant where they will suppress the printer from printing. It doesn't mean that the printer is not going to print all the time, but it probably will take the printing down to single digits. So whether that's 5 to 9% or whatever, but the aim is to really get it down to a point where the sheer volume of paper needed is vastly reduced. And yeah, the upstream mechanism there is that, well, if they're buying less paper, then less paper needs to then be sourced, and therefore maybe that paper is going to other areas. It might maybe less in retail, but the idea is that we can significantly help that. So in terms of numbers from merchants, we don't have that yet, but I think we're going to probably be able to release some numbers hopefully this year where we can categorically say that we are really making an effort and an impact to reduce paper.
I can actually tell you personally for myself, I am going to download your app and use it for 3 main reasons. The first one is I'm useless with receipts. Whenever receipts are handed to me, I tend to be the person that sticks them either in a pocket and they go through the washing machine, or I throw them straight in the bin, and then I regret it 3 months later when I realize that I've bought something that I need to return or something else. Secondly, most printers these days are thermal printers. So even if you get the receipt and you've got a 2-year warranty on something, if it breaks within a year, you go back to the receipt and it's turned completely black. It's useless. It has no value whatsoever to you. So another reason to have the app. And thirdly, having everything in one place makes a lot of sense to me. So as a consumer, I see a lot of value in this. I don't know about you, Ville.
Well, as someone who travels for work and actually uses a corporate credit card from Nordea as well, I can tell you that it's such a fantastic feeling when you see that the receipt is automatically there, so you don't have to figure out the kind of taking a picture or scanning or whatever and storing the paper receipts for a certain period of time as mandated by the regulation. So again, this is a no-brainer in terms of value proposition. Just frustrating to see it take so long time to be realized.
But unfortunately, as always, we start running out of time. I'm amazed at when you get into these fantastic discussions, you just want to keep on rolling and the time is ticking and you run out really fast. But before we get to the end here, Chris, is there anything that you really wanted to share with our listeners that we haven't discussed yet, or on any specific points that you want to get across?
Well, I just think we're definitely in a era of trying to understand how we can better leave the planet. And I think, whether it's, paper straws or whatever it would be, but the idea is that, these incremental changes in habits and society, for most cases, I mean, if you were to ask a merchant why they're printing paper receipts, it's seldom that they're in control to either turn it off or make changes to it. So I think from our perspective, it's a really global solution that we are offering, and we'd love to see more merchants use the platform and provide their customers with a really sustainable and slick solution for getting a digital receipt.
We have an awful lot of fintechs that join us on the show, and I have to say that I like what you guys are doing. I'm encouraged. I'm going to download the app, and I will definitely wave the flag for you a little bit and say I like this. I think we need to get to a paperless world when it comes to receipts. So keep on going. But also, Ville normally does this at the beginning of the show. I do it at the end. Ville likes to set the mood and go up and come down. I like to get into the discussions and then have a quick burst at the end. And obviously what I'm talking about is the jokes. We often ask our guests, but this time Ville is so excited he wanted to jump in. So Ville, do you have a joke for us?
Unfortunately, I do. So you ready?
Absolutely, always.
So why did the hyperscale cloud provider fail in its digital receipt project?
Oh, I like this. This is topical. It fits into the episode. Fantastic. I love it, but I still have no idea.
Because their business model is built on paper use.
Oh, God.
Oh.
Oh my God. Okay, fine. Yes, thank you very much, Ville. That brightened my day. Thank you. So, Chris, whilst we're still laughing here at Ville's horrendously bad joke, if our listeners are keen to follow this discussion further and get in touch with you, maybe find ways to take advantage of ReceiptHero, maybe they're a merchant, maybe they're a retailer, whatever, how do they get in touch with you?
Yep, happy to connect with interested people that want to know more about the business. So happy to connect on LinkedIn. For more information about ReceiptHero, you can go to getReceiptHero.com and check out the website and see what we're doing.
Fantastic. Ville, any last words from you?
No, I'm just really happy to see this space move forward, and I couldn't hope more that we will get this sooner than later, that we don't have to deal with the paper receipts anymore. If for anything else, let it be for business travel. That's my number one wish.
Yeah, no, I'll agree with that. And to all you fantastic listeners out there, if you want to get in contact with us, you can so through our LinkedIn page, our Instagram, or directly on our website. I'm so excited to be able to start saying this, but this episode has been hosted by Ville and myself, and it's been produced and edited by our fantastic new producer and editor, Femi. We will continue to have fantastic work from him, but we're glad to have an extended team and a new member to the podcast. So fantastic, thank you, and welcome on board yet again, Femi. To everybody else, as always, please hit that subscribe button. Please hit the bell to get notifications. If you do just one thing for us and you've stuck with us through this fantastic episode, share this podcast with a friend. It helps us to grow, and the more we grow, the more excited Ville and I get. And, we are already ranked as number 19 of global fintech podcasts. Help us get into the top 10. That would be astonishingly exciting. But for that, we need some more listeners, we need some more feedback, and we need some more ongoing commitment and discussions with you all. So hit that subscribe button. But until next time, we'll be back in 2 weeks' time. This has been Fintech Daydreaming.
This is Fintech Daydreaming.